Hey everybody, what's up? Hope you guys are doing good today, and time for another video here. Thanks for tuning in, much appreciated. And today I'm going to continue with the series I'm going to start doing a series on basically some of the old timers, some of the veterans that's been into the sport, and try to give everybody a little bit of a history lesson, because I think it's important to keep a lot of those people alive that have really contributed a lot to the sport of fishing. And talked about Jerry McInnes in the first one last time, and today I'm going to talk about Ray Scott. And hey, one thing quick here before we get started. Tomorrow night, Johnny and I have our Fish the Moment virtual seminar from 6 to 9 p.m. This is going to be a spring jig fishing seminar, going over every type of jig you can imagine: swim jigs, football head jigs, flipping jigs, casting jigs, finesse jigs, swing head jigs, and where and when to fish them during the springtime. So go on fishthemoment.com. You can sign up for that. Hope to see you there tomorrow night. And okay, let's talk a little bit about Ray Scott. Ray Scott, obviously, unless you live under a rock, you probably know that he's the one that founded the Bassmaster Sportsman Society, Bassmaster. The very first organization in fishing, and still the #1 organization in fishing out there. And Ray Scott, we don't know. I mean, would somebody have come along if Ray Scott hadn't have come along? Would somebody had come along and figured out that, hey, we need to have bass fishing tournaments, or we need to do more in bass fishing? It's hard to say, but without a doubt, Ray Scott has got to be one of the most influential guys that have ever come along in fishing. I mean, a little bit of history about Ray. I've known him ever since I started fishing bass in '85. He was the MC for a decade or so, so I got to spend quite a bit of time with him. But in the formative years, from the late '60s and in through the '70s, I mean, he was really instrumental in a lot of different stuff. I mean, not only forming the Bassmasters tournament trails, but the Bassmaster Classic. He was heavily involved in conservation issues. There were a lot of efforts they made, as far as to stop water pollution in certain areas in the '70s that were real prevalent. So he did a lot of good from an environmental conservation standpoint that a lot of people don't know in the '70s. And also, he did, along with a lot of handful of other bass pros, he did these cross-country tours that basically promoted the organization in fishing. So he brought a lot of national attention, to the sport early on, and continued that throughout the whole time he was with Bass. And the thing about Ray, if you've ever been around him, I mean, he was a promoter. I mean, he's bigger. He's bigger than life. He always wore the big Stetson cowboy hat. He always had the tie thing on. He was dressed like some modern cowboy at the tournament trails, and he could entertain the crowd. I mean, at the weigh-ins that we had there, I mean, he everybody knew the anglers that were at the tournaments. Ray did. He had nicknames for all of them. He had stories for them. If you weren't at a Bassmasters tournament, and a lot of the new guys, the young guns, they never got a chance to see Ray Scott in action. But for those of us that saw him there, you just never know what to expect when you got up on stage with him. And Ray was a little bit controversial. I mean, because he was there was a lot of different stuff about him that a lot of people loved and a lot of people didn't like. I mean, he was a businessman. He ran Bass's business. He sold Bass, I can't remember exactly when it was, but sometime in the '90s, I think, and still stayed on as the MC after that. But a couple different stories I'll tell you about Ray here. I was at a tournament one time. We were at the Bass Megabucks tournament, and this was I think late 1980s anyway. And anyway, back then I was rooming and traveling with an angler named Randy Mosley, and Randy, we were about the same age. He's qualified for a couple of Bassmasters Classics, and at the Megabucks tournament at the Harris chain, he made the top 10. In that tournament, they cut to 10 after 2 days, and then those 10 fished a 10-hole course. And Randy was one of the top 10 qualifiers. So anyway, at the final weigh-in on the second day of the tournament, when they were announcing all the top 10 anglers, Randy gets on the stage there, and he had a pair of these flowered Hawaiian shorts on. just it was pretty popular back then with the younger guys, the Hawaiian shorts. And anyway, Ray saw those shorts and he did not like that at all. He was trying to set an image for bass that had nothing to do with long hair or, flowered color shorts. And I was right up there next to him, and he pulled Randy aside. He goes, you're going to get rid of those shorts. He said, I don't care what it takes. He says, you do not show up on these stage tomorrow in the top 10 with these Hawaiian shorts. So Randy went down to Kmart or wherever it was at the time, and he bought a pair of just regular shorts and put them on. But that's how Ray was, man. He had an agenda and an idea and an image that he wanted to convey to the sport, and he did it his way with that. But like I said, it's I don't think that anyone can fully appreciate what Ray has done to bring the sport to where it is right now. And he's been out of the sport for, man, it's probably been close to 20 years now. So there's a big part of the generation that fish now, a lot of it, that really don't know how big of an impact he played. I mean, when it came his partnership with some of the original companies that partnered to help promote the Bassmasters Classic, allowed professional anglers to actually begin to make a living at the sport. I mean, Ray profited big time from it, don't get me wrong there. He was all about making money himself, but at the same time, he provided some opportunities that allowed people to do this for a living. And he really paved the way to all the the guys that are well known today along the road. But anyway, he's got I think he's got pretty bad Alzheimer's right now, so I don't think he's doing real good. But I think about him a lot, and if you watch any of the old Bassmasters television shows, you can see Ray there and sort of get a feel for how he was in real life. But man, he was character. It was one of a kind, and it's just sort of interesting to look back to see what he's done in the sport anyway. But anyway, that's it. Ray Scott today, or Ray Scott, as far as, veteran pioneer of the sport, had a huge impact in it. And, everybody sort of owes him a little bit of gratitude for where the sport is today. So anyway, that's today's little history lesson there. We'll be back soon with another one and keep moving on with them. See y'all later.